One student story that comes to my mind after 23 years of teaching is an encounter that I had with a student named Tay. I worked with Tay probably about 10 years ago, and I'll never forget Tay. Tay was one of the most well-mannered, respectful, neatly dressed students I have ever had. He was a student that everybody would have loved to have had in their class. Always had a positive attitude, never complained about anything. Always, yes sir, whatever you needed him to do, he would do it. So he was a great natural leader, and I really loved having him in my class. I had him for probably about 2 years in the program at Fern Bank. And I'll never forget one day, Tay and I, we were walking up to our classroom. It was a cold, crisp morning, and as we were walking up the sidewalk, I remember Tay saying, Mr. Collins, guess what? I said, what, Tay? Thinking to be anything other than what he was about to share with me. We actually have the power back on in our house again. I can actually take a warm bath and wash my clothes again. And I literally froze in my tracks when he told me that. Keep in mind, this is a student that I had worked with for over a year. Did not have a clue anything was going on in his background. I was with Tay 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And I would have never guessed in 100 years he was dealing with this situation at home. And I almost actually started to cry when he told me that because of the impact that it had on me. I was thinking that morning, I was more concerned about the students memorizing the photosynthetic equation for plants. And Tay was just happy to be able to have the power back on where he could wash his clothes and take a hot bath again. From that very moment, I realized right then, as a teacher, I remember that I was reminded that I was a role model for the students. I was an encourager for the students. I gave the students a reason to stay in school. And I knew that I had an important role at that moment to not only be a teacher, but in some ways a father to some of these kids, especially Tay, who didn't have a father, an active father. So at that point, I realized, after much contemplation and much reflection, I decided on two things. And one of them was to go back to school and get my doctorate in why students drop out of high school. More importantly than going back and getting my doctorate, I decided to make a commitment to be more engaged with the students, to understand that my role as a teacher is much more than just processing knowledge or passing along knowledge, but become fully engaged with the kids and understand the whole social and emotional learning aspect of it. And it's something I'll never forget. Tay is always in the back of my mind every day. And one of the things that I shared with some of the teachers that I've worked with is to always be passionate about your job. And don't worry about just making a difference. Make a positive difference in the lives of the students that you come into contact with on a daily basis, both through your words and your actions, because words matter and the stakes are too great to settle for anything less. And I try to promote or have a passion for my job that the students can see that I'm much more than just a teacher. I am a role model. I am an encourager. I am a surrogate father for some of these students. And I take on that responsibility and I love it.